All right. Well, hey, welcome everyone to this week's Franchise Partner Spotlight webinar. If anyone has not attended one of these webinars or listened to one of the recordings, the purpose of these webinars is really just to give anyone that's interested in learning more about ShelfGenie and our franchise opportunities a chance to hear from some of our different franchise owners, learn a little bit about their experience, what they did prior to joining ShelfGenie, and what their experience since joining ShelfGenie has been like. So it's a fantastic opportunity to hear from some of our different owners, learn from them, and get some of your questions answered. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. We do usually open it up for Q&A periodically throughout these calls. There's also a chat box, so if you've got questions, you can send them through the chat box as well. I'll be keeping an eye on that. So we'll go ahead and get started. It's a pleasure this week to have Karen and Edward Enslin joining us. Karen and Edward are our franchise partners in Indianapolis, Indiana. They joined ShelfGenie in January of 2018. So you guys will be 2 years in before we know it. I can't believe we're already in October. It's crazy. This year has just flown by. And so, we'll get to hear a little bit from Karen and Edward about their background, what they were doing prior to ShelfGenie. So I won't steal any of their thunder now. I'll go ahead and pass it over to you guys. And Karen, Edward, if you want to just start out by maybe just giving us a little bit of your background and how you ultimately got involved with ShelfGenie, but maybe start with what you were doing prior to ShelfGenie and how all of this came to be.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. So, I mean, our story, I guess, is a little unique. We are obviously from South Africa, and we moved to the US about 4.5 years ago, and really we were involved with another franchise when arriving here called the Home Mag, and interestingly, as we started to grow the Home Mag business, we obviously got connected with the previous people that were running this business in Indianapolis. So
Right.
the very good friendship with them. And when that time came, they obviously approached us and wanted to see if we would be interested in in getting into this business here. So it was obviously different for us because back in South Africa, I'd been the sales and marketing director for a company called Avis Fleet Services. It was the long-term leasing side of Avis, and had been there for around 10 years. Karen?
I am back home in South Africa, worked for one of the largest banks in South Africa, FNB, and I ran the online banking portion of it for FNB, and was in charge of a whole lot of Java developers. So
Okay.
built stuff, and that's really my passion there. But moving here, we had to dig deep and do a whole lot of different things.
Right. So it was, as I say, in terms of choosing Indianapolis, that was the territory that we wanted to have on the Home Mag side, and obviously that's where we then settled our family. And probably 2.5 years into our new life in the US, we obviously started seeing a lot more of ShelfGenie. So it was quite an ironic story, but we went to visit some South African friends of ours down in Nashville, Tennessee, and as we got there and started settling in, one of the first things that they said to us was, "Hey, come and have a look at our pantry." And it was a newly installed pantry which Charlie Rose had done for them, and obviously his wife just absolutely loved it and called Karen in there.
She called me over and she was like, "When you finally buy your house, you have to get a pantry.
Yeah.
You've got to get ShelfGenie in." And she just showed me, and obviously I fell in love with it, and then put 2 and 2 together with the ShelfGenie back here in Indy. And that's just really, I think the dealings that Edward had with Rick and Laura here in Indy, the ShelfGenie previous owners, we had a good relationship with them, and it just sort of crazily sort of landed in our lap on how we actually got going with ShelfGenie here.
That's a cool story. I didn't realize, I don't think I'd heard the story about you guys seeing ShelfGenie in Nashville. That's
and I think that's really, where we, I think at that time we had thought that, having a diversified opportunity was important. And, it was just interesting that seeing the product and understanding it through friends of ours, and then, ironically, having just a really good connection with the ShelfGenie owners here previously, it kind of just, it really did bring it all together for us. So, I think when he approached me out of the blue and said that this is what he was thinking of doing, it was, almost like it was meant to be.
right.
And obviously that was, that was exactly how it started. I think that the really good piece of information for us that we had to our advantage was the fact that it had been in Indianapolis for 7 or 8 years already. So the brand had started to grow nicely, and obviously it was up to us to now kind of continue what they had started setting up over that period of time.
Yeah, that's right. Rick and Laura, who were the previous and the original owners in Indianapolis, they were in one of the very first kind of groups of ShelfGenie franchise owners. They were pretty early in after ShelfGenie started franchising, so they did have a pretty long history in the Indianapolis market. So definitely some good brand awareness, and they had built a nice business and laid a good foundation. And then you guys have really been able to come in and build on that. And I know you're growing the business at a very nice rate, which is great. And so we'll get into some of that. So thanks for sharing your background. And Edward, I didn't realize that you were involved with Avis in South Africa. So I was an enterprise guy. That was my first job out of college. I went through their management trainee program and ended up running some enterprise branches. I was on the rental side of the business, but I guess we were probably not there at the same time necessarily, but maybe competitors in a previous life almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we worked very closely with our short-term car rental guys in South Africa, and it was a really, really strong brand back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it, and that also gave me some insights to see other parts of the world, and I did travel and went to Europe and the US. So, when our American opportunity presented itself, it was nice having done stuff through them, and obviously knowing that this would be a good fit for us to move into in the future. Yeah,
no doubt. And I'm sure that a lot of the experience you have as a sales and marketing director, I would imagine that part of that job entailed developing and managing teams, which, as you guys know, is a key part of the success in the ShelfGenie business. Especially if the goal is to scale the business, you've got to really develop and manage a good team. So I'm sure a lot of that experience translated well into this. So for those that may not be aware, talk a little bit about your other franchise business that you're involved in, the Home Mag, because some folks listening in may not know what that business is. And to me, it's interesting because, we have numerous ShelfGenie franchise owners that are also involved in other businesses outside of ShelfGenie. Some of them are also franchises, some of them are not. And usually the other businesses that they're involved in complement the ShelfGenie business in some way. So we have, franchise owners that are in the closet organization business. We have some that are in cabinet refacing. And, the Home Mag is different from that, but actually really does complement ShelfGenie, I think, just in a different way. So maybe give a little bit of an overview on what the Home Mag is.
Okay, yeah. So I think that I think very similar to ShelfGenie. What we liked about it was that it's a very established franchise in the US. Just like ShelfGenie is. It got started 18, 19 years ago, with the head office being out of Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. Couple South Africans involved in the home mag business, because the founder of the company is a South African himself.
Yeah,
and really,
I met him earlier this year at a conference, actually.
Sean Campbell's. So in South Africa, he actually would do a lot of remodeling on a house that he was actually trying to build a house, and so he wanted to be connected to home improvement specialists. And then, when he made his move and came to the US, he wanted to do something similar, and just didn't find a home improvement only publication, just targeted at home improvement, going to the most affluent homeowners. And that was really, I think, his brainchild to then try and emulate what was going on in South Africa and build a scalable business in the US that he could obviously grow, throughout the territories and the different markets. So, today the home mag is in 60 different markets. A couple of them are corporately owned, similar to what we've seen with ShelfGenie, and the others are then franchise driven.
Yeah.
Corin's brother actually runs the home mag in Salt Lake City, as well as Portland. So it was through him that we got connected to Sean, the founder, and so our journey started. So, we obviously got to understand the franchise model and how that works, and what you need to do to be successful.
Yep.
We would meet with other home mag franchises that had been through launching a new magazine, and really, would try and pick up on their best techniques and understand what worked for them, so that we could adopt those things for us. So, in essence, I think when we get to May of 2020, we would have been running the home mag for 5 years in Indianapolis. And this last year, in May of 2019, we expanded into Cincinnati. So we now run the home mag in Indianapolis. We run it in Cincinnati, and I think it just seems to do very well, because it's not a magazine that's trying to be everything and everything to everybody. It's just home improvement only, focused on things that can add value to a homeowner in their homes.
Yep.
So that's obviously been one of the main things that I have been involved with. But as I say, with what we experienced there, exactly the same process of getting involved with ShelfGenie and talking to other owners and seeing what they did, and all the lessons that they've learned proved to be really valuable for us. Interestingly, Michael Saunders, that runs ShelfGenie in Cincinnati as well as Columbus, he runs ShelfGenie now in our home mag out there. It's obviously had a synergy, because you were talking about throughput and synergies earlier. It obviously helps us to be able to promote ShelfGenie in our own magazine in Indianapolis. And if we ever want to do direct mail pieces from a more targeted zip code perspective, we've got those products that we can use to get the ShelfGenie brand name out into very targeted areas out here. So for us, we did see a fit between the home mag and ShelfGenie. Exactly as you say, other people might own closets and cabinetry businesses, and obviously have just added ShelfGenie to what they do as well.
Well, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I think it aligns very well. And I know, even outside of Michael Saunders, quite a few other ShelfGenie franchise owners, run ads in their local home mag publications. And from everything I've heard, it is, in most markets for ShelfGenie, one of the more successful marketing vehicles that they use. They typically see a very strong ROI. In fact, talk to Sean, tell him we need a home mag in Wilmington and Myrtle Beach, because we don't have one, and I'd love to have the opportunity to run ads for our franchise in it. And maybe we'll buy it. I don't know. That's something to think about.
It is, and as I say, it does well because it's really just trying to be a big fish in a small pond and being focused on one key outcome, and that's home improvement. That's the real big differentiator. We
Yeah.
have tried things for Shelf. It's not as if we didn't try other marketing avenues. Obviously, for ShelfGenie, we've put it in the home mag, but we've also, tried to see how we go with other marketing tactics. Some have worked, others haven't worked. And I mean, those are also good learning points for us in terms of where ShelfGenie should best be, but also, how the home mag needs to be different to other competitors in that space. So it's really been an interesting journey for us.
Well, I would imagine too, because I would assume, I don't know a whole lot about the business model for the home mag, but I would assume a lot of it, entails going out and networking with other businesses in the home improvement space and,
Right.
helping them understand the benefits of advertising in the home mag. So I would imagine through that, you've just been able to establish relationships with a lot of the other business owners in your area. And so I would imagine that opens the door for referral partnerships, which, like in any business, referrals are gold. As a franchise owner, anything you can do to stir up referral activity is a great use of your time. Right. So I would think, I might be wrong, but I would think that has made it a little bit easier on the ShelfGenie side to maybe generate some referral business.
Yeah, it it definitely has. So, I think one of the first things that I saw was the importance of a BNI network. So Business Network International is something that I got involved with to try and get the home mag out there, where I would meet every week with like-minded business owners. Some of them represented home improvement, others didn't, but it was, just like I would become a salesperson for our insurance guy or for our CPA or, payroll benefits person.
Yeah.
So they would become salespeople for the home mag. And obviously, in turn, when we got ShelfGenie, it was a great platform to be able to let all of those people know what ShelfGenie does and to have them just mentioning to people, what this could mean for them. So that was obviously point number one, was BNI was very helpful on both sides.
Yep.
Secondly, we had joined BAGI, the Builders Association of Greater Indianapolis. And obviously, every single market's got one of those.
Yep.
So we joined BAGI, and the home mag has grown through there, and we wanting to actually do a lot more for ShelfGenie in that space going forward. So really looking forward to see what that does, because that, it's something we haven't explored, and, we can't say it until we've done it, but, all the main builders, be it Pulte Homes, Dries, MI Homes, all those kinds of companies are represented within BAGI. So there could be an opportunity to actually do some work for them and actually put ShelfGenie into some of the spec model homes that they have. And if people then, when they buy their home, want to put ShelfGenie in, they can reach directly out to us to be able to, extend that opportunity. So I think that the BAGI and the Home Builders Associations could be very good areas of opportunity. And then really the third one is just how the home mag and ShelfGenie have complemented each other at our home shows. So I think everyone would agree that the home shows is probably the best opportunity creator for ShelfGenie, because there we have everything laid out in a 10 by 20 booth, and the public can come past and they can actually walk around and see exactly what ShelfGenie does. So we have our home mag booth right next to the ShelfGenie booth, and we get those synergies of driving those opportunities. So, those, I think, and obviously the home mag would sponsor an exhibitor's lounge at some of these events. And then at the same time, Karen will be running a ShelfGenie event for realtors and trying to get the word out to any realtors in the area to come and have some drinks and snacks. And then from there, walk through to the ShelfGenie booth and come and see what we've set up there. So, the home shows, BNI and BAGI, I think those have been really important pieces of opportunity with both.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. Lot of
Yeah.
synergy there. So, and
Yeah.
we won't focus the entire conversation on, your other business, obviously, but, we talked to quite a few people that, are business owners, and they look at ShelfGenie as, a business that could be ideal to, help them diversify and to essentially be an add-on business to what they're already doing. So from your perspective, because you were obviously owners of the Home Mag prior to ShelfGenie, what were some of the things about ShelfGenie and the business model that made it attractive as an add-on business? Because I think, for most business owners, the last thing they would want to do is, you know, add another business that would, be a big distraction and cause their existing business to plateau or even worse, move backwards. So, what are some of the things that you saw after learning more about the ShelfGenie model that made you feel confident that, this is a business that you could add to your existing business and really grow them both together?
Well, I think I'll answer that. You know, Rick spoke very highly of ShelfGenie and of the franchise model. And he obviously, before we even went down the road with you guys, we'd had many discussions with him and Laura, and he had shown me the Wish Portal process, and it just seemed like there were a lot of things in place which made things a lot easier for the owner. And so I think that number one was a nice thing to know. And then the other thing is that, he also just expressed the fact that you can either make this your full-time thing, or, you have a lot of flexibility, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that is what appealed to Edward and I as well, considering we have another business.
Right.
So that really is my baby, in the sense of the day-to-day operations, and it's manageable,
Yep.
and you can grow it as quickly or as slowly as you like. So I think that's really what attracted us to the model, to the franchise model.
And the fact that there was, calls being answered through.
Yes, I think that too.
huge.
Yes, the BSC, or the call center. So I think that was great, and that I didn't have to be answering phones and around,
Yeah.
24/7. So that's I could do it from home. I could do it from the office, and just having the installers receive their stuff, the product, and the staff being 1099. So that really was it was really easy.
Yeah, no, to me that makes a lot of sense, and I think it is part of why it's somewhat common for ShelfGenie franchise owners to be involved in other businesses, because the ShelfGenie model is really designed, to take a lot of the day-to-day kind of administrative in nature responsibilities of the business off the plate of the franchise owners, which will do a couple of things. Number one, it'll free you up as an owner to focus on the aspects of the business that will really allow it to continue to grow and to scale. And to your point, if you follow the model and set your team up right, it's pretty flexible for the owner. And flexibility should not be confused with easy necessarily. Flexibility does not translate to you're not working hard. It just means that you're able to put in the time from wherever you need to be. And a lot of times you've got flexibility in when you're, putting in the time. The key to that, of course, is developing a team that you can delegate to, and in our model that really consists of designers and installers. And so, that's always the thing that I really try to coach anyone that's, investigating ShelfGenie on is, the key to success in this business is developing a team. And then it's almost, I think for some people, a little bit counterintuitive, where, the more work you put in up front in developing the team, the more flexible your lifestyle as an owner can become. and the bigger your business can grow. So I think those are all very, very valid points. So, like we talked about, January of 2020, you'll kind of be at your 2-year mark with ShelfGenie. So what has that experience kind of been like for you guys so far? Just kind of generally speaking.
Well, if I honestly have to think back, that my first day off, once we signed the documents with Laura and Rick, I went straight to a home show, a 10-day home show. I didn't know whether or Martha. But I do want to say I received a check on that day from my designer that I had clearly just inherited. So yeah. I was pretty happy.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was pretty good. So yeah, I think the first year for us really was a big learning curve. Sure. Just understanding and figuring things out. Whereas I feel this year has been a little bit more strategic.
Yeah.
In our approach to things. We've really tried to, we still have the same team that we started with. And I think this year we've really focused on building our team up and improving on our training. Mm-hmm. And so from that point of view, we've been a little bit more strategic in things. And so yeah, I mean, it has been a much calmer year, I feel, compared to our first year.
Yeah.
And it's been a good year. It's been a good year.
Yeah, that's great. And to me, that's a natural progression. Whether you're taking over an existing business or developing the business from the ground up, that first year or so is definitely the steepest learning curve. And really, and Tommy, this should resonate with you, given that you're buying an existing business as well. The learning curve's actually a little bit steeper when you're taking over an existing business, because if you're building from the ground up, you kind of get to ease into it a little bit more. But, like Karen just said, day one, you're at a 10-day home show and you've got business already happening. You've got jobs in progress. You've got, appointments being run. You've got orders coming in, which is fantastic. It can certainly lead to a quicker ramp up. It just also means that you've got to learn a little bit quicker, and you're kind of getting thrown into it a little bit quicker. So what are some of the biggest, learnings that you've had over this, first almost 2 years now?
Well, I think getting our designers up to speed was our first priority, and we realized that they probably weren't where they should be,
right?
From compared to the rest of the system. Mm-hmm. So I think that was one of our biggest things we had to sort of realize, and we're still figuring certain things out also about home shows, and we know that that's one of our other things. We need to do more shows. Yeah. So that's a learning. If we want to do better, keep growing. It's about identifying that, and it's about finding out if that's another aspect we need to really focus on. So I think I can also that, as you said, Wes, when you're taking over something, we were obviously taking over from the previous owners who there were jobs scheduled, and just knowing how we kind of split and coordinated, deposits that had already been collected on jobs that were being done and things that we then had to facilitate on the installation side. That's where Andy was really helpful and beneficial to helping to streamline, because, we started, suddenly we were the owners, but there were already, I think there were like 8 or 10 jobs about to go in. We hadn't seen those deposits up front, and those are real operational things, but one that you really do need help on. Sure. When coming into something new, because the other things that we had done were certainly not close to this. So
we felt that the head office helped us a lot with regards to that. Also, the process of coming up there for training, we went on installer training. We had our new owner training up there, just really getting to understand everything, meet everybody. Those, being able to walk out of that with that infrastructure and support in place, especially when there are technical questions coming at you which you'd like to know the answers to, but you're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I think Steve was really valuable
Yeah.
in helping with a lot of questions that Karen had. When our installer would ask certain things, and we, as you said, it's a much steeper curve because you take over the business, you're expected to know all the answers, but you're still learning.
Definitely.
Yeah. So those were, I think those were, looking back, rewarding. Keisha would really go through that whole onboarding process step by step and make sure that all the pieces had been done. And by the end of it, you look back and you realize that quite a bit has been achieved, and you actually, in a shorter space of time are ready to start adding value, to people around. Yeah,
it's definitely a different dynamic. And I think, either way, starting, a brand new business and building it from the ground up, or taking over an existing one, whether it's ShelfGenie or an entirely different business.
Yeah.
A lot of what, you're going through in those early stages and everything that you're learning, I mean, it kind of just feels like a whirlwind. And I can remember when we first opened our franchise, I can remember having days where it just felt like, all right, this is crazy. We're never going to, feel like we're really, getting on track. And now, I look back on it and I can remember having those days, but I couldn't tell you specifically, what we were frustrated about. I mean, I think that's just kind of a natural thing that any brand new business owner is going to experience. And, I know you guys have done a very good job of, leveraging all of the support, from the home office that's there and available to you. I know you've also done a very good job of networking with other franchise owners and, learning from them, as you've already mentioned. And, that's something I'm always, strongly encouraging any new franchise owner with ShelfGenie to do is, definitely leverage all of the resources and support that are there for you from the home office. But in addition to that, tap the rest of the network. You've got other franchise owners all over the country, and they're an invaluable resource. And, I hope that you would agree with me, because one of the things I've always been very, very impressed with ShelfGenie about is just the culture that we have amongst our franchise owners, and just kind of this culture of shared learning where, everyone is willing to share and to help each other. But you have to be comfortable reaching out, right? If we don't know you have questions, or if another franchise owner doesn't know you have questions, or that, maybe you're struggling with something, it's difficult for them to really help you. So, one of the things Andy, our CEO, says all the time is never suffer in silence. Don't be afraid to raise your hand if you do have questions. And, I think for people that are comfortable doing that, you'll find that, the resources are there and everybody is very, very willing to help you with that, whatever you may need help with.
Absolutely. Yeah, we couldn't agree more.
So because you guys talked a little bit about the team and how that's been a big focus for you, is kind of getting the performance of your team, kind of where it should be and where you would expect it to be. So, at this point, and obviously I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that your team's not perfect. And if it is, you guys come down and work with our team some, because ours is definitely not perfect. It's obviously an ongoing effort. You'll always be continuing to train and mentor your team, but do you feel like you've had some success in, getting your team trained up from where they were when you came in and bought the business?
Well, if I compare when we first started, they weren't doing SketchUp. They didn't even know what SketchUp was. And this was 2018. People were doing SketchUp. So that was just a training thing. The previous owners never did that. So that was an easy one for us to really do. But it was a big learning curve because, some people just are a bit scared of change. So it was a slow process. And now if I look at how the designers are doing, they are fabulous. I mean, the stuff that they do, it's great. So that was a big thing. We are forever training. I have a weekly Zoom meeting with my designers for just a half hour, quick chat once a week. And then every month we have an in-office meeting. And sometimes it's more interactive than others.
Sure.
For example, I made them do a custom insert. I said, right, here's the drawer. What are you doing? How are you going to fill this form out? Because this is a designer's form. It's not an installer's form. And they love to push stuff onto the installers.
Yeah.
So, and the in-office meeting is with the installer as well as the designer. So it was really great. It was a great thing to do, a nice little exercise. So, sometimes our meetings are like that, and it's interactive and really collaborating with the installer. What went wrong on that one? What did we do right? That kind of thing. So, it was this last meeting we had was absolutely fabulous because I had just received the most awesome testimonial from a customer on my installer and designer, and it just gave me great joy in reading that out to them here at the meeting. So I think by us doing that continual weekly meeting, touching base, and monthly in-office meetings, I think it just gives us, we are a little bit more in touch with each other. Definitely. And we can see where they're struggling. Edward is the great sales guy, so he then steps in and helps with objections, all those kinds of things. So I think the continual training in all aspects, just after the conference that we had, in June, coming back, doing role playing, like old Jack would tell us. And we did a lot of that. And I did that on the Zooms as well, going through your intro calls. Now we're at the house, so from that point of view, I think continual training you have to do. You have to do it.
No doubt about it. And I love hearing that. I think, and if I had to guess, the former owners probably were not doing a lot of this.
I don't think they had the in-office meetings. I do think they were doing the Zoom meetings, once a week. But I think the sitting together for 2 or 3 hours, chatting, learning things, going through things together on the computer, showing them, so I think that was beneficial, for the team. They needed
there's no doubt in my mind. I love, hearing when franchise owners get their entire team together, their designers and installers, because, when you do that, especially on a regular basis, you're creating a cohesive team. You're building a culture in your team. And so everyone feels like they're a part of the same team. They're collaborating together. And when you do have issues or complications, as you will from time to time, you've got more of a team effort. You don't have as much of the finger pointing going on and, people trying to throw someone else under the bus. So, I have no doubt that some of the things you guys have implemented has resulted in a higher level of performance from your team, and you'll continue to see that as well. There's no doubt in my mind about it. So I don't know. I don't know if this would put you on the spot or not. And you may not have specific numbers in front of you, but do you have a sense? I'm sure you have a sense at least, what type of growth have you seen in the business, since you guys have taken it over compared to, what it was doing before? Have you seen some of the key metrics that we look at, things like close rate, average sell, RPA? Have you seen, some good increases in some of those numbers, since implementing some of the things that you just talked about?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for us that we wanted to see in our second year was increased revenue and increased sales. And as Karen said, trying to be a bit more strategic with the training and stuff. And, we obviously needed time to kind of just entrench itself. So, I think we're around probably 20% growth year on year, depending on how we end off the year, you know, we've obviously tried to be even more strategic on the marketing side. So, I mean, we'd like to be at 25, maybe even 30%. But I mean, hoping to close off on revenue sales up by 25% year on year. That would be a goal for us that we've obviously tried to work towards. So I don't see any reason why we can't do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then, as you say, the biggest thing with the training and with, you know, different ways of following up with people and all that stuff and all the open opportunities that might still be out there was trying to get better at our close rates. Because if we're spending more on marketing and time, we need to see, you know, those close rates and those help rates just obviously improving in line with that. So, you know, we probably are 10 to 12% up year on year in terms of that close rate, and that's really what's helped us to get the revenue line up. I would say that our appointments, the value of appointments run, we've had some nice sized jobs, but I mean overall that seems to be pretty flat. But there are a couple larger ones, you know, in the pipeline that we're hoping would come through, and we would like to see that improving. Maybe, you know, I mean, the Midwest, people are a bit more conservative and they take their time and they might do their jobs in pieces, you know, split a job out, you know, just start with one component and get to the others over time. So I think that's what's really keeping our average sale, you know, a little lower than we'd like it to be. But if the close rate is up, then we'll see that obviously falling down to the bottom line.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think, in my opinion, close rate will move, you know, an increase in close rate will move the needle more than, you know, a modest improvement in average sell. And, you know, Tommy, I know you're fully aware of, you know, the metrics that we watch very closely. For anyone listening in that may not be as familiar, you know, one of the metrics we all look at very closely is RPA, which stands for revenue per appointment. And RPA is essentially a function of your average sell and your close rate. So, you know, there's multiple ways to improve your RPA. One is improving close rate. The other would be improving average sell. And if you are able to improve both, then your RPA goes up even more, which is fantastic. But, you know, for you guys to see a 10 to 12% increase in your close rate, I mean, that's huge. That's a game changer. There's no doubt in my mind that, you know, the regular team meetings that you're doing, the focus on continuous training, having your team, you know, really communicate with each other, you know, that's got to have everything in the world to do with some of the improvements that you're seeing. So congratulations.
And I think the other really important thing is that we've also, you know, I mean, we've got two really big home shows here in Indianapolis, and there are a lot of people that stop by. So we've tried to get a little bit better at almost pre-qualifying at the home show so that people have a little bit more of an idea going into the appointments. That's definitely made those sales come to fruition a little bit sooner. It's not that much of a guessing game for the customer.
Sure.
You know, we've tried to get better at that conversation, and obviously our designers do man the booth and they are at the shows, and we know that we want to do more shows going forward. That takes a different kind of infrastructure to make that happen, to get to every little fair and every little event going on in all the smaller towns around here. But having them at the shows and having them form that relationship with the homeowner already, you know, when they now pop into their house, they've met them before, they've kind of pre-qualified, and I think that's definitely helped to get a higher close rate at the end of the day.
Yeah, they've had a chance to kind of develop some rapport and before they actually get to the home. And, you know, in some cases that may result in not booking some appointments that you may have booked if you weren't, you know, pre-qualifying a little bit. But, you know, those could have been appointments where your designer shows up and they're expecting a ShelfGenie job to run $200-300, which is just not the case. So that makes sense. I think that's a very valid point. This is really good stuff, guys. We're about 10 minutes from the top of the hour, so I do want to open it up and see if Tommy's got any specific questions for you guys. So, Tommy, anything that you'd like to ask or follow up on?
Not really. I guess the main thing, I just like to hear a little bit more about the transition when you purchased. Did you have a plan going in, or was the plan just basically just do whatever home office was kind of relaying to you?
Well, as Edward mentioned, we had a couple of customers who had paid deposits, and the glide outs were at manufacturing and were about to get shipped, kind of thing. So we were in that sort of situation. So the home office just helped us with identifying those customers that were still hanging out there, and we just had a plan in place of, well, the deposits were with the previous owners. Now the install will come to us. So I think from that point of view, we ran with what the home office had suggested, and it worked really well. Starting with the home show, I mean, that was just absolutely crazy. But we were very lucky in having Rick and Laura around for the home show, so they really helped me. Just how are we booking appointments, and just small little simple things. What does the schedule look like, and how do we book it, and how many appointments per day, and small little things that you don't necessarily think about, but those things were covered. And also we dealt a lot with Serena at the home office, and bent her ear a lot, just asking questions, and how do we bring people into the booth. And so you see, I think that was our experience being the home show.
Mm-hmm.
So I just I guess asked a lot of the questions, and took the lead from the home office as well as from the previous owner. And then I guess I've maybe tweaked things a little bit as the next year came around. But that was, it was invaluable having them help me with that.
Yeah,
Right.
Tom, I think the as far as possible, if one can have that handover done in such a way that the previous. So can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That the previous owners are maybe involved in the first thing. I think all that made our situation unique was the fact that we were really like fighting a big timeline issue, because we wanted to have everything done before our big January home show, because we know that's where the year takes off, and typically it's a 10-day long show. I think it's been so cold here, everyone just wants to get out of the house, and so they end up walking around the home show in January.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to have everything buttoned down by then, and we typically leave there with 150 leads from that show. So
Right.
even though you would try to always be more structured and more planned and have it all. We had in the December, we'd been to head office, we'd met everyone, we'd understood what things were happening, our training was scheduled, but we were finalizing, the transaction with the previous owners, and we wanted to get it done before that home show. So, it's never a perfect science. We ended up, signing the paperwork, going to the home show, and inheriting those 10 accounts that needed to be installed, and walking out with 150 leads and saying, okay, we've just jumped in the deep end. How are we going to make this work? But at least with the home show, the previous owners would come in over those days, and we could listen. Karen could listen to how they spoke to the public, and the way they would answer the questions, and how they would get the appointments scheduled. And obviously from there we needed to, but as far as possible, if one is able to have that support in the handover process, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Just being able to walk together maybe for the first 30 days with the previous owners to ask them questions as you come across them. So I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Yeah, I'm just trying to plan for myself, but it sounds to me like, I don't know what I don't know at this point.
Right.
And it sounds like the beginning for me is going to be very reactive, yeah. I'm not so sure if it's even really worth my time to try to make this huge plan if I'm not going to end up really following it to a T when it comes down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously want to, be as best prepared as possible and know the system and all that stuff. And I mean, I think that's where we can say that Serena was amazing at head office. We could call her at any time. But I mean, if you've gone for training and you've met everyone and you get, you then decide to go ahead and you get to know the system and what to look for, then, but yeah, if there are big home shows, try and have everything in place before that so that you can start the business with a bump that it needs. And you'll obviously be inheriting designers and installers. Those are all people that know what they're doing. And so you'll kind of grow and learn with that. But yeah, Serena is fantastic in terms of supporting you and helping you with the things that you just don't know,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, the plan is never 110% buttoned down. It's just how it is.
Well, I think that's such a valid point. Whether you're starting a brand new business or taking over an existing business, obviously it's good to come in with a plan. But, to your point, you don't know what you don't know until it kind of happens. And so usually the best way to learn is through taking action. So the advantage you have with taking over an existing business is that you do kind of get thrown into the deep end. So, it might feel a little bit hectic at first, and it won't be perfect, but you'll learn a lot quicker because there's just a lot more activity and you can start taking action a lot quicker. And to Edward's point, there are a lot of resources at the home office that are going to be there supporting you, whether you're taking over an existing business or starting a brand new business.
Right. And I think in hindsight, I don't think we would have changed anything. I think jumping into the deep end, but jumping in when there was a time that the leads were coming through and we were having to, it can be a very long, delayed, gradual learning curve, or you just jump in and that's what happened to us. As I say, I mean, next thing we had 150 appointments and Karen was trying to make sure that it was correctly mapped out and everyone could get to the people on time and travel time and get the deals. And, it's taking over something that's existing. I mean, we inherited the home show booth. Having those kinds of things ready to go on day one, you can make your tweaks and changes down the line if you want to, make improvements to the home show booth and give a different customer experience at these events. But jumping in and having the business come your way and figuring it out, I wouldn't have changed it.
Right.
So
did you guys, I'm not sure if I ever heard, how large is your team? How many designers and how many installers do you have?
We've got two designers and one installer.
Okay.
Yeah. And Indianapolis is really made up of 2 territories.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think that's a good fit for us. And I mean, sometimes we might maybe need some help with someone at a home show in terms of manning the booth. And as I said, we do want to come up with a different plan around home shows in 2020. But that's really, Indianapolis is the circle city and you can get around pretty easily. It's not like you've got a lot of wind chill time that you need to be driving to clients to get to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions.
Well, and I'm sure, Tommy, that Edward and Karen would be happy to talk with you one-on-one. At any point in the future, if you do have any other questions, and once you do get involved in the business, they'll be a great resource for you, just like any of the other franchise owners, will be, and of course everyone here at the home office. So, Edward, Karen, this has been great. Really appreciate you guys taking some time to come on and share some of your experience and talk with us today. I know anyone listening in will get a lot of value out of today's conversation. So any parting advice or words of wisdom for anyone that's kind of in this investigative process right now. Any parting advice that you'd leave for someone considering getting involved in ShelfGenie?
No. I think we've covered the main things. I really do think that the Spotlight initiative that you are running, I think for us, when we were doing the research that Tommy's doing, if that had been out there, it would have helped us a lot to have the opportunity to ask questions and see what people have to say. But I think you've already got a lot of these recorded. I think it's a great initiative.
But doing the due diligence with the other franchises, which we were encouraged to do by you guys, I think very important.
Yeah, definitely. That's to me, that's the most valuable part. And these recordings are not meant to replace the one-on-one calls. That's something that we encourage everyone to do. Talk to as many owners as you'd like to, because that's how you can really learn. And you learn all the positive aspects of the business, but you also learn some of the things that are challenging about it and how owners have been able to overcome some of those challenges. And it'll really give you a realistic idea of what this business is all about and what it does take to be successful.
Right. And let's not, maybe on the parting point, let's not forget just how awesome it is when you back at your home show booth and, people come past and, they did their pantry last year and they just stopped to chat and they can't stop raving about the impact that it's had for their organization and their space, and just feeling that they've taken control of those areas in their homes, just having those experiences and just seeing the smile on people's faces, and people are happy then to refer to other people. I mean, that's really why one does this. It's a good product, and you do it to see, good customer satisfaction at the end of the day.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's a great point. So I'm glad you added that in right here kind of at the end, because we talk about our noble purpose, which is to help turn our clients' frustration and pain into enjoyment and love. And I don't know, when I first heard that before getting involved with ShelfGenie, I kind of thought it was cheesy. I was like, well, we're talking about shelving here, right? But you see it. You see how excited people get once they've had our solutions. And it really is a business where we are able to have a very positive impact for our clients, and there's definitely a feel good aspect to this business, which I think is something that most people are looking for.
Absolutely. Yep,
for sure.
Well, hey guys, thank you so much again. Really appreciate this. For anyone that would like to follow up with Karen and Edward to maybe pick their brain or hear more from them, you can reach out to them. I've got their email addresses up here. So guys, thank you again. Thanks to everyone for joining today. And Karen and Edward, we look forward to seeing you guys here in a couple months at the December meeting.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you, Wes.
All right. You got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.